out of 7 matches after the end of round robin versus Tyler, another player in Division B who is near the top of the table. I think both of them don't have too much to be worried about, but I would like to see a very clean showcase that even if you're in the lower division, you could still be playing top level Hearthstone.
You can indeed. And Tyler is in an interesting spot in his own right, because while I think he has been playing some pretty good Hearthstone compared to the rest of the field, he had a real big slip up last week in his deck preparation with what he brought. With his fourth deck, which ended up being the Dragon Aggro Hunter instead of the more popular Face Hunter or Highlander Hunter we've been seeing, he just went on HS Replay, typed in his opponent's decks that he expected him to bring, and then just brought whatever lined up best against them, which turned out to be a pretty awful deck. There's a reason why no one else was bringing the Dragon Hunter, and he admitted to me it was a huge mistake. He just didn't practice with it at all before bringing it here. And that is overall the problem with Tyler. He just lives and dies by the ladder stats, I think, rather than converting it over to a tournament mindset, because at the moment he is very much focused on just grinding the ladder all the live-long day in the hope that that prepares him for the tournament matches, which is not always a one-to-one trade-off.
Very good point you bring up there. The Quest Warlock is a deck that I didn't expect to have too much stats on ladder, but I will say though, even though it's the off-the-wall bring from Tyler this week, it seems to have far more merit than the Dragon Hunter that he had last week, which we were saying is the archetype of hunter that he appreciated the least for that particular meta. Quest Warlock we saw put in the work for Possessi, although he didn't end up taking the series. It seemed to have a very, very easy win against Demon Hunter, one of the most popular classes right now.
That's right, the Quest Warlock with just one punch and able to take it down very easily with the Malagos earlier on in the day. But now for blitzchung, we are seeing the Warrior being left up for him. What a change of affairs here, Gia, where blitzchung has been the player who has consistently been leaving Warrior up, or not even bringing Warrior. But now, how the turntables, he is left with the Warrior here. And we're going to have to see if he's got what it takes with a deck that he clearly does not respect as much as the other players.
Oh yes, Warrior is a very, very powerful deck, but one that is so punishing if you don't have enough practice on it. I am speaking from experience, guys. There's just so much to consider about the battle rage turns, even from the build to begin with. Do you run the eggs or do you not? I think that they're losing popularity in APAC, but still have the faith of people in other regions just to keep a more consistent curve. We see blitzchung opting for the injured 12-year list, no Deathwing, and a Grom at the top.
I still think Tyler has got what it takes, though, overall. He is, like I said, I think his overall deck selection has maybe not been the strongest. But now that he's practicing more, as he said, with the EU players bringing this Quest Warlock, and with his strict training regimen of 100 Warlock games, 100 Demon Hunter games, and 100 Hunter games every day, I think he's going to be able to take the win. Oh, yes. That is something you will have to go to his stream to find out, because it is quite the feat.
It really is. So let's look at the reasoning for leaving up Warrior. We always say that if you're going to do that, you have to have a very, very good reason, because this is just the highest win rate deck across GM. And if I am looking for reasons, I think that the Hunter is a very big one, because I think Highlander Hunter is one of the decks that has a bit of juice to deal with Warrior.
Yes, and we are going to have to stall there. And unfortunately, all my great One Punch Man jokes that I was weaving in there are going to be for naught, Gia, because while Tyler was apparently teasing that the Saitama cosplay was going to come out in here, we may have to deviate from that line, as I think it may not be allowed in this series. So we're going to stall for a moment while Tyler gets changed. There's always something with Tyler before his GM matches, fixing his room, but getting changed out of a stupid cosplay, whatever it is. For the moment, I agree. It's looking like it's going to be an interesting series based on the decks, because this is one of the few times that we are seeing a complete difference in terms of the decks, just 6 different classes from all of these players.
You're right. I didn't even take a look at that. There's just so much being brought to the table here. The Rogue and Druid. Druid, of course, being highly represented across APAC. Tyler is the only one not bringing it. And I think it is no coincidence that Tyler is probably our player here in this region that has the most ties outside of APAC and practices largely outside of the APAC GMs. So it is a difference in philosophy with regard to that specific class, but also why blitzchung is bringing Rogue when Rogue has fallen off in popularity and is also a class that is far more represented outside Asia.
Yeah, I think that it's a very decent deck to bring overall, and a very blitzchung style of deck. It just I think going with his not necessarily super aggressive playstyle, but just a much more kind of on the curve aggressive playstyle that he seems to be a big fan of. And overall, the abundance of Druid is the main reason I feel like now to not bring Rogue. The aggressive decks have all but fallen by the wayside, with Face Hunter completely disappearing, it feels like. The real difference is just the absolute ubiquity of the Druids, and therefore, given that Tyler does not have the Druid, he's the one player here in Asia Pacific to not do so. Blitzchung, I think, is overall looking to be in a good spot.
Yeah, you bring up a very interesting point because it, if I had to submit for GM this week in APAC, I would not have expected this abundance of Druid. I
Yeah.
think Rogue would have been a fine bring. But then, even taking that into consideration, if the field is bringing it, it doesn't necessarily matter because you know who you're going to be facing this week. It's just one or two people. So if you can have a fairly decent read that they're not bringing Druid, then you can bring Rogue.
You can indeed. But then I guess we should go one step further and not only talk about what he ended up facing with Tyler, but also about Tyler's ban on Blitzchung. Obviously, the Demon Hunter going out of the way. I guess that speaks volumes to the question I had with the Warlock up against Demon Hunter earlier on, because if you think that's a good matchup, I don't feel like you're bringing Warlock and then banning Demon Hunter away if you like that matchup. So I guess he thinks that it's in a decent spot against the Warrior overall, or at least just really hates the Demon Hunter matchup.
I could not tell you one way or another. My instinct tells me that Warriors got the juice versus Warlock because if you're playing stickier minions with high health, suddenly Rain of Fire is a lot more difficult to play to remove a simple board. It might even just be damaging their minions, which they want, so they can get better battle rages and so on and so forth.
Indeed. But then for the remaining decks here for these players, again, as I am just trying to get thoughts of Tyler hurriedly changing out of his stupid cosplay out of my mind, the overall archetypes that we have for these players, or the tech cards, I suppose we should say. Warrior has, of course, undergone some nerfs recently, Gia, with the Bloodboil Brute and Bloodsworn Mercenary primarily taking a hit. Do you expect that to make any difference in terms of the list you're bringing of Warrior, or is it just good old tried and tested Warrior match?
Yeah, I think that the best warrior lists at the moment are still running two of those cards because the way that they were nerfed doesn't, in my opinion, take away from their power level in most situations. Whereas Bloodboil Brute, because it can come down so early for its size, can trade down many minions. I don't think there's many minions at 6 health that don't already just die to the 5 attack. And so it can take a lot of value trades. Maybe Fate Weaver is the only one that comes to mind. Whereas the Bloodsworn Mercenary, you're hardly playing it for its body, for example. You're hardly ever playing that as a 3-3. It's there to activate your OTKs or just compound on the big pressure you get from normal challengers. So I don't think it's a very big deal.
But now we are finally ready to go, Gia, we can get another look at the Quest Warlock. I'm glad that we're getting to see a good look at it here today in Asia Pacific, even if it is an underrepresented archetype compared to the other regions. And even though I haven't played this particular matchup all too much myself, even in testing, the whisperings I hear are that the Warlock should be in the lead against the Rogue.
If that's the word on the street, I feel like I disagree with it. I think that...
Tell us why.
Yeah. Because of this card right here, Flick Skyship, I think is actually such a huge deal in this matchup.
Okay.
If you delete Trey's Netherwings, I think that it removes one of the best ways to deal with Rogue's board states. And suddenly they're able to get the pressure ongoing. There's also the aspect of secrets, which came into play in our testing last night, where ambush can be super annoying as well, because when Warlock wants to play Craze Netherwing, they activate ambush and it gets traded on board.
Okay. I think even just in the limited experience I have, I disagree with you there, because both of these decks are at the point now. That might change things up, but I'll come to that later. Both of these decks are at the point where they have reached pretty much peak consistency. I feel like Rogue rarely ever just runs out of cards anymore. With all the Lackey generation, drawing of your Hogwaggle or your Galakron in particular, you always have stuff to do. And obviously, Warlock with the life tap always has stuff to do. They're never running out of cards. And given that neither player ends the game especially quickly, I think the Warlock should be able to hit some of the broken late-game combos, be it through Malagos, Dragon Queen Alexstrasza, Abyssal Summoners, whatever cards you want for 0 mana, that should be able to get over the finish line for them.
I'm going to stick to my stance here. I think that while you make a good point that both of the decks like to go into the late game, I think that Warlock consistency in terms of draw doesn't necessarily translate into consistency on their game plan, because a lot depends on whether you get the big cards early or whether you get the quest online. And I also want to say, the Nether Wing is such a huge deal for them to swing back tempo in the mid game in order to buy the time to make it to the late game. If you're just removing minions from Rogue, they can refill, as you said, but if you suddenly put them on the defensive in the mid game, where I think Nether Wing plays a big part in that, then that can give you the time to get to the game-ending combos.
Well, Gia, I am ready to be proven wrong. Absolutely. I just want to see explosive action on either side, no matter what. As Tyler is going for a turbo quest completion, as you so often do with this deck, with the plot twist in hand. It can only be a couple of cards away now, with another questing explorer, 2 turns max, I'm thinking here.
Yeah, and it is true, we were talking about how Rogue doesn't run out of things to do usually, but blitzchung has just drawn into some of the most expensive cards in his deck without many invoke effects at all. I think this is just a level 1 Galakrond. We've seen the 1 praise, and no seals. No shield either. Oh man, he's gonna heal back up with the Aranastes.
And then we could just see questing very happily. Yep. Oh, and now this is where things start getting juicy, Gia, because this hand is a pretty premium one to have quest active with. We are looking at all the big dragons still in the deck. The Abyssal Summoner still in the deck as well. I'm just liking Tyler's position.
Can't disagree with you. And for blitzchung, because the Kronks doesn't do anything with Galakrond already in hand, he might just be forced to play Flick on a 2-3 or some type of swing.
So many options.
Oh, that sounds so bad.
Yeah, it even, to some extent, helps Tyler by removing one of the bad draws off the top of his
It's true.
deck.
Yeah.
But what's the alternative? I think that if blitzchung needs to win, he needs this Kronk's Battlecry activation from the Galakrond. The hacking so bursty. Look at this. Cobalt double eviscerate Kronks. That could potentially kill Tyler from an unexpected position.
Choose soon.
And I guess, of course, the fact that you have Bamboozle as the secret means that Flick is a fairly decent statted minion, because as soon as he attacks in, it'll go up to a 9-drop. Although I guess it's unlikely that he's going to attack him anytime soon.
Oh, the Kronks for 6-6. Oh, it's a full. Oh. Okay. I thought he hovered over Kronks there, but it is a full pass.
And that is fantastic news for Tyler.
It really is. Doesn't even have to. I was gonna say it doesn't have to interact with the miscreant if he didn't want to, because he could just remove it with Nether Wing. But yes, most of these 6 drops would have been within a. Oh my gosh!
Oh.
Reasonable health total, but that is not reasonable for blitzchung now.
It is looking quite decidedly awful for blitzchung, and even though he has multiple ways to kill it off here, it all just eats up too much mana on this turn. And so he just tanks it?
The Flick was in hand, the Kronks is in hand, so what's even good to draw from Galakrond here?
Right. He's just setting up for lethal next turn?
Does Tyler have lethal?
Nephros
isn't active. Oh, he does. He has Nether Breath, Soulfire. Oh my god.
Well, before blitzchung could even get going, even start worrying about the late game nonsense, Tyler's able to just take a kind of bamboozling win on his own, even despite blitzchung being the one to get auctioneered.
The did not see that coming at all. The lack of mid-game for blitzchung was absolutely brutal there. We didn't see him get Shields of Galakrond early enough. We didn't see him get, say, even an ambush to make some of Tyler's clear turns a little bit more awkward. And that is just a quick 1-0 for the Quest Warlock. I think it is now just 100% win rate in APAC.
Absolutely. It shows to me, Gia, that the true Saitama cosplay isn't on the outside. It's the one on the inside, just showing that you can absolutely destroy your opponents and have it not even phase you along the way. The Warlock just looking like a good deck overall, not even particularly targeting anything, just doing powerful stuff.
That is something I did not expect. If you're going to say that something is just a good deck, I would much expect it to be Rogue instead. But now,
But every
Warlock
time
seems
we're
to have
seeing it,
taken that. Yeah.
it's just powerful. It's not dying in the early game because of all the anti-aggro. And in the late game, I agree that the overall Malagos game plan is somewhat inconsistent. But just the ability for it to do powerful stuff, I think, is very consistent.
You know what? If we're going to be seeing a slow deck, or I guess we could call this a control deck, I don't think you often get the win by doing the whole Malagos combo. I think far more often it is just removing their stuff and playing one or two big threats, and that's enough to get you there. So as far as control decks go, this is probably one of only two in the meta, the other being Priest.
Right.
The rest are just Highlander decks. So it makes me happy to see if there is going to be a new control deck on the horizon.
It makes me very, very happy as well. And I'm sure it makes Tyler happy going up 1-0 and looking cool as a cucumber about it along the way. So for the rest of the series, we are going to have to go for a quick break before we can come back and see if Tyler can get the full 3-0 sweep. The first one of the day it would be, so make sure you don't miss it. We will be right back with more Hearthstone Grandmasters after this.
Useless spec? Nope.
쓸데없는 정보? 생각이 안 나네.
A useless fact I know is a day is 18,6,400 seconds.
제 친구가 요리 유튜브를 시작했는데 구독자가 지금 700명 넘었어요.
아, 나 근데 이런 거 잘하는데. 근데 최근에 아는 거 있어요.
밥에다가 그 귤이랑 김이랑 해서 먹으면 연어 초밥 맛이 난대요.
귤이랑 김이랑 싸가지고 간장에 찍어 먹으면 약간 연어 초밥 맛 난다고 해요. 믿을 만한 소스가 알려줬어요.
This is Hearthstone Grandmasters, and you are watching the Asia Pacific region, the third match of the day here in Week 6. Things are definitely heating up here for these players. The bottom of Division B is looking at definite relegation for the bottom 2 spots, and 5th and 6th in with a potential relegation still. So for these players, Tyler and blitzchung in Division B, it is absolutely all to play for. But it isn't all doom and gloom, to be said. It is the top 4 spots in Division B that go to a playoff, to go to playoffs later on. So there is still a chance for blitzchung in particular up at the top tier to get that win.
Yeah, he does look like he's going to be the most likely as he is at the top of Division B right now. But Tyler is hot on his heels and looking already to be in a good position to be blitzchung's first loss for the round robin portion, because Tyler now has gotten the anomaly of the deck out of the way. I think it's fair to say Quest Warlock in Asia Pacific, not something many players were bringing, but seems to have put on a strong performance both for Tyler and Possessi so far.
Yeah, it was a bit of a miserable rogue draw, all things considered, but I definitely agree with you. Just a decent deck overall. As for the other decks that are left over for these players, I feel like for Tyler, could be in with a bit of a rough spot with the Hunter. The Rogue, I feel like, is an interesting matchup in particular, where you're not necessarily able to go quite so aggressive to close them out before the Rogue locks down the board. But I guess the main one is really that blitzchung is now on the other side of the ban debate, where he is left with the warrior and he is banning it away from his opponent, in stark contrast to what we've seen so far.
Yes, and I do think this is not so much due to a G of targeting warrior or not respecting its power level, at least for blitzchung's previous weeks, but just a difference on how he approaches conquest. The next matchup, though, will not have any of those in sight. It is just going to be another Druid versus Demon Hunter match. And so far, even though Druid in APAC has had a very good win rate, today it seems like Demon Hunter has been doing what we expected.
And it is a very powerful start indeed for Tyler to get rolling with here. I'm looking at 2-drop, Satyr Overseer, and start just absolutely rolling the Druid.
I like the look of that as well. I was curious to the order of the 2-drops though, because the Sightless Watcher technically puts more pressure on board. It is, however, weaker to single target removal.
Yeah. And I think even though it's not granted that they want to play Wild Growth on 3, that's the bigger disruption turn, I feel like, than turn 2, where I guess there is Fungal Fortunes, but they'd be pretty happy with just going for that instead.
True enough. Tyler, the Twin Slice doesn't look too great because he's already got the weapon to activate Satyr Overseer. But then again, I-Beam seems very reactive in a matchup where you want to be proactive. I was even looking at the skull there, if it ever gets freed up.
All I see is weakness.
In the end, though, we are just seeing the cheapest, most aggressive options time after time. And while we saw for Chonsu that this was enough to get over the finish line up against Surrender in the first series of the day, I feel like this might be not quite quick enough to get the job done.
Yeah, blitzchung has had the ramp and the removal, but now he's missing the third piece of the puzzle, which is his own development. No fungal and no Mount Seller in sight. Blowfly off the top wouldn't be very impactful here. This is another reason why Demon Hunter can just be favored in the matchup. They just have more stuff to do.
Yeah, it's pretty specific cards you're needing to hit as the Druid in order to refill the draw. There are a few of them, though, to be fair. The Fungal Fortunes, the Overgrowth, even just a Mount Seller hit, or sorry, the Overflow, or even the Mount Seller would just be fine here.
It would have been blitzchung if he wants to cycle. It means leaving up the Shadow Weaver and Battle Fiend. Oh my gosh, it's all the ramp!
Disaster!
What is this? He has a Ysera in the deck, but even if that comes off the top... Okay, he's got Ironbark, so it gives him time. But my gosh, a Glowfly is pretty much just dead here.
Well, even Ysera, he's just dead because of the Warglaves able to take it out so easily. He's just dead.
True. All right. He just can't do anything. He can't hunt. Okay, he can hunt a Power of the Wild, but it's, as you said, dead to Glaive Bound. Healed back up, but also not able to remove anything on board. And Tyler, with a swig of his tea, not just a tiny sip, I think, is cool as a cucumber, as he said in his Hawaiian t-shirt.
Him just bopping away. They're like, yes, that was acceptable to me. That win where he had absolutely nothing and you just absolutely steamrolled him. Yeah, that'll do, Tyler.
Oh man.
Yeah,
I
one of those
would have
games.
paid good money to see that expression in a different costume, but that is not the
So
fate
would I.
for today.
Yeah. It was just one of those games. It happens with Druid all the time, right? It's a deck where you can absolutely high roll and destroy your opponent, as the Japanese players have been seeming to do week after week. But sometimes you just don't draw what you need to do, and you are left completely high and dry. It's a deck full of cheap spells, and it turns out sometimes you just draw cheap spells. What are you going to do about it? And now Tyler 2 games up here, only with the Hunter left remaining. And even though I was saying that I think it could be in a bit of a weak spot early on, having taken a closer look, I feel like it's one of the few decks against Warrior in particular that is in, I think, actually a decent spot overall.
I would agree. Warrior tends to struggle a little bit more dealing with single target minions, and Hunter always plays good ones on curve, big stats. And even if they do die to, say, buffed up Livewire Lances or Anchors, that means the Warrior's taking so much face damage in the process, by which point Hunter can blindside them with a King Crush for lethal.
They can indeed. That is generally what you're trying to move towards as the Highlander Hunter deck. It is instead going to be Rogue versus Hunter, which I was talking about a little bit earlier, which I find to be a very interesting matchup, because while traditionally throughout the history of Hearthstone, Hunter has been in a great spot against Rogue because Hunter has a lot of damage, Rogue has very little healing. I think it's gotten a little bit more complicated recently, Gia.
Definitely. The identity of Rogue has shifted throughout the years, but now it's kind of landed in a spot where it is a lot more value-oriented before, which in theory you would think makes it even worse against Hunter, but Hunter itself has also shifted to less of a face game plan, unless you're playing that archetype, and more of just making sure you play efficient minions on the board. And a lot of them tend to die to Rogue removal, but not the Fairy Dragon and not the Feywing.
Oh my god, Gia, I can't even look at the power that Tyler has in this game.
Oh.
Stormhammer alone could just absolutely wipe blitzchung out of this game. Look at the damage!
Blitzchung's gonna take 9 in the process of removing this Fairy Dragon. Stormhammer is gonna deal, I don't know, I'm gonna say at least 9 damage this game
At
as
least.
well. No healing in
Blitzchung,
sight!
he can't do anything. Seal Fate the face? That sounds dreadful.
Play ambush.
I guess.
Have board presence in case Tyler plays a minion, and he'll want to play a minion to make sure the Stormhammer can keep preserving its charges.
Oh my god, I cannot get enough of Tyler there with his hands on his hips, just like surveying his land and finding it acceptable to him.
He's got the power.
So many.
He does indeed. I mean, at this point, Gia, I'm just wondering what dance moves he's got for us, because this is over.
Okay, I'm gonna play devil's advocate and look for ways that Blitzchung can swing this back. There is damage jockey. That could solve a lot of his problems for right now. It makes the next turn quite awkward. Or he could save it altogether and just hope to stick something for the Faceless Corruptor turn. Probably his best shot.
I mean, this all sounds great, Gia. I love everything that you're coming up with here, but none of that stops this big hammer just smacking him in the head.
Yeah, he's also got Corrosive and Kill Command. Why, Derek? Why? The second I even try. Okay, this is a play though. He can coin the shield and play Backstab.
And then get rot nested.
Yes. Be quiet. Just let me have my sentence. One sentence that isn't immediately refuted, please.
Sorry. Yes, Gia, in Cloud Cuckoo Land, Blitzchung is in a great spot here.
I never said great. that maybe there's a chance.
Fair enough. Sorry. You have the harder side of the argument here. If we're playing hot takes here, I am the TJ and you are the Sothel in this situation.
Oh yes, you got to award points at your own discretion. All right, so the Rotnest will come down. Tyler gets another 3 to the face. blitzchung responds with, oh, Faceless Corruptor double trade.
Yeah.
I'm throwing up a little in my mouth just about it.
Much like the Rotnest trade did there onto the Shield of Galakrond.
He can
That's
make a 4-6
4-6 with Taunt?
Yeah.
He's getting ready to dance. He's getting up already. He's
really is.
limbering up.
The one sliver of hope is surviving to the Galakrond armor, but with this particular hand from Tyler, which is just more burst, more where that came from, it's just not gonna happen. He is just dead.
Yep, he is just dead. Tyler with a disgusting 3-0 sweep over blitzchung. He
Hey,
just had
another salt
nothing. Get rolled. And now, Gia, sit
Chair
back
is
and watch.
moved.
It's Tyler time.
Wow. Whoa! I don't even know what you call that. That was like half a workout routine and half a dance move.
My muscles hurt just thinking about doing that, Gia. I think I would fall down to the apartment below if I tried to do that, to be perfectly honest.
It never even entered the vicinity of my thought process that I would try and do that. I would never imagine myself doing that. I would just watch Tyler.
All right, I thought you were going to say you wouldn't envisage me doing that, to which I would say, rude. I'm very strong and could definitely do that. But well done there by Tyler getting a disgusting win. It's just one of those series, Gia. blitzchung just didn't have it.
APAC, guys. I love it.
Couldn't have put it better
Alright.
myself. APAC clap.
But
We'll
you
have to
know
get a
what?
note in.
You know what? blitzchung's still in a good spot, right? His overall match win rate, I think he's now 3-1. Still very impressive. Good spot to be in the top 4 come the end of the round robin. But it's all about Tyler now. Also up to 3-1, or is it even 4-1?
Sorry, now up to 3-1, I believe, here for Tyler. 4-1, sorry, even with him having played all the matches in all the weeks thus far.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to take a quick look at the schedule now to see what we have coming up for the last matches of the day, given that was our third match of the day. Still lots of exciting Hearthstone to be looking forward to in, I believe, Division B mostly. There we go. Shaxi versus Tom. That, I think, Gia, is going to be a cracker of a match. They have been two of the best players at their best here in Asia Pacific, but two of the most bemusing players at times as well. And I think undeniably the two best players that Chinese Taipei has to offer at the moment.
Very true. The players from that region, in particular, I think, were really hitting their peak earlier on in the days of Hearthstone. I don't want to say they are already done peaking. They could, of course, come back on that roller coaster and make it to the top. But right now, it definitely feels like it's all about Japan, and Korea never really let go of their dominance at any point. But these two, I think, are some of the best representatives to show that even if you're not in those two countries in APAC, you can put on a very good performance. And Tom, in particular, is top of the table or close to it after Tyler took yet another win and could potentially get up to 4-1 himself.
Yeah, I've liked so much of what I've seen from Tom 60229. I think after like one or two objective minor slip-ups and a couple of weird plays as well, for the vast majority of the time we've seen him, he has looked calm, cool, and collected, which, as I keep saying, is the most important aspect here in Hearthstone Grandmasters for the Asia Pacific region. So I cannot wait to see if he is able to keep up his calm demeanor heading into the last couple of weeks of round robin, because things are absolutely heating up. But before we can get into that, I believe we're going to go to an ever so slightly longer break here. So make sure, as usual, that you get a drink. Do whatever you need to do to make sure that you are ready for the last couple of series of the day, because we are coming back with Shaxi versus Tom 60229, the former world champ, after this.